Today I'm going to be reading the mandatory guidance for the internal audit profession. I'm going to try to remember to add into the captions a couple videos from the industry. We have the chairman of the board of the Institute of Internal Auditors talking about the importance of the standards and what they mean to the profession. And then from the IIA's website, the IPPF, which is the International Professional Practices Framework, we have the framework for internal audit effectiveness. Hoping you can hear me. I'm going to only have time to talk about the mandatory guidance of the International Professional Practices Framework. This consists of the core principles for the professional practice of internal auditing, the definition of internal auditing, the code of ethics, and the standards. This IPPF is the conceptual framework that organizes authoritative guidance promulgated by the Institute of Internal Auditors, a trustworthy global guidance-setting body. The IIA provides internal audit professionals worldwide with authoritative guidance organized in the IPPF as mandatory guidance and recommended guidance. Conformance with the principles set forth in mandatory guidance is required and essential for the professional practice of internal auditing. Mandatory guidance is developed following an established due diligence process, which includes a period of public exposure for stakeholder input. The mandatory elements are, as I described, the core principles, the definition of internal auditing, and the code of ethics. Now, the IPPF, as it was described, has been updated in 2017, according to their established due diligence process. Moving on. The core principles for the professional practice of internal auditing, taken as a whole, articulate internal audit effectiveness. For an internal audit function to be considered effective, all principles should be present and operating effectively. How an internal auditor, as well as an internal audit activity, demonstrates achievement of the core principles may be quite different from organization to organization. But failure to achieve any of the principles would imply that an internal audit activity was not as effective as it could be in achieving internal audit's mission. And I can share the mission of internal audit, but first I will read: demonstrates integrity, demonstrates competence and due professional care, is objective and free from undue influence. Right, these are the core principles. Apologize, they're just kind of listed here. Demonstrates integrity, demonstrates competence and due professional care, is objective and free from undue influence, in parentheses, independent is how we refer to that objectivity, aligns with the strategies, objectives, and risks of the organization, is appropriately positioned and adequately resourced, demonstrates quality and continuous improvement, communicates effectively, provides risk-based assurance, is insightful, proactive, and future-focused, and promotes organizational improvement. We'll return to the mission of internal audit at another time. In fact, before entering into the standards, let's first read the core principles one more time. Try to remember that there are 10. 1. Demonstrates integrity. 2. Demonstrates competence and due professional care. 3. Is objective and free from undue influence or is independent. 4 aligns with the strategies, objectives, and risks of the organization. 5 is appropriately positioned and adequately resourced. 6 demonstrates quality and continuous improvement. 7 communicates effectively. 8 provides risk-based assurance. 9 is insightful, proactive, and future-focused. And 10 promotes organizational improvement. For the standards of the International Professional Practice of Internal Auditing, we read they are principle-focused and provide a framework for performing and promoting internal auditing. The standards are mandatory requirements consisting of statements of basic requirements for the professional practice of internal auditing and for evaluating the effectiveness of its performance. The requirements are internationally applicable to organizational and individual levels. 2 interpretations which clarify terms or concepts within the statements. And 3 glossary terms. It is necessary to consider both the statements and their interpretations to understand and apply the standards correctly. The standards employ terms that have been given specific meanings as noted in the glossary, which is also part of the standards. Now, it would appear that the standards have an introduction, are broken into attribute standards and performance standards before getting into the glossary. Before concluding, might have to go into the the definition of internal auditing and the code of ethics. So let's start with the definition of internal auditing. This is one that's worth memorizing because most people do need a constant reminder of what internal auditing is trying to accomplish. The definition of internal auditing states the fundamental purpose, nature, and scope of internal auditing, and is defined as follows. Internal auditing is an independent, objective assurance and consulting activity designed to add value and improve an organization's operations. It helps an organization accomplish its objectives by bringing a systematic, disciplined approach to evaluate and improve the effectiveness of risk management, control, and governance processes. So to read that once more, and remember at the end we're discussing risk management, control, and governance processes. That's your GRC. Through the disciplined, systematic approach to improve those areas, internal auditing helps the organization accomplish its objectives. It is an independent, objective assurance and consulting activity designed to add value and improve an organization's operations. It helps an organization accomplish its objectives by bringing a systematic, disciplined approach to evaluate and improve the effectiveness of risk management, control, and governance processes. For the Code of Ethics, which is integrated in the mandatory guidance, the Code of Ethics states the principles and expectations governing the behavior of individuals and organizations in the conduct of internal auditing. It describes the minimum requirements for conduct and behavioral expectations rather than specific activities. An introduction to the Code of Ethics. The purpose of the institution's Code of Ethics is to promote an ethical culture in the profession of internal auditing. Internal auditing is an independent, objective, assurance and consulting activity designed to add value and improve an organization's operations. It helps an organization accomplish its objectives by bringing a systematic, disciplined approach to evaluate and improve the effectiveness of risk management, control, and governance processes. A code of ethics is necessary and appropriate for the profession of internal auditing. Founded as it is on the trust placed in its objective assurance about governance, risk management, and control. The Institute's Code of Ethics extends beyond the definition of internal auditing to include two essential components. This is 1, principles that are relevant to the profession of the practice of internal auditing. Should believe we read the core principles. And 2, the rules of conduct that describe behavior norms expected of internal auditors. These rules are an aid to interpreting the principles into practical applications and are intended to guide the ethical conduct of internal auditors. Internal auditors refers to institute members, recipients of or candidates for IAA professional certifications, and those who perform internal audit services within the definition of internal auditing. The applicability and enforcement of the Code of Ethics. The Code of Ethics applies to both entities and individuals that perform internal audit services. For IAA members and recipients of or candidates for IAA professional certifications, breaches of the Code of Ethics will be evaluated and administered according to the Institute's bylaws and administrative directives. The fact that a particular conduct is not mentioned in the rules and conducts does not prevent it from being unacceptable or discreditable, and therefore the member, certificate holder, or candidate can be liable for disciplinary action. The Code of Ethics principles, which are all demonstrated in the core principles, but here they are reduced to 4. Internal auditors are expected to apply and uphold the following principles of 1, integrity, 2, objectivity, 3, confidentiality, and 4, competency. Confidentiality might not be part of the core principles, as I recall all 10 quickly now, so let me define each. Integrity. The integrity of internal auditors establishes trust and thus provides the basis for reliance on their judgment. 2, objectivity. Internal auditors exhibit the highest level of professional objectivity in gathering, evaluating, and communicating information about the activity or process being examined. Internal auditors make a balanced assessment of all the relevant circumstances and are not unduly influenced by their own interests or by interest in forming judgments, by others in forming judgments. 3, confidentiality. Internal auditors respect the value and ownership of information they receive and do not disclose information without appropriate authority unless there is a legal or professional obligation to do so. And competency. Internal auditors apply the knowledge, skills, and experience needed in the performance of internal audit services. There are rules of conduct relating to each of these principles. 1, integrity. Those include 1.1, internal auditors shall perform their work with honesty, diligence, and responsibility. Internal auditors 1.2 shall observe the law and make disclosures expected by the law and the profession. 1.3 internal auditors shall not knowingly be a party to any illegal activity or engage in acts that are discreditable to the profession of internal auditing or to the organization. And 1.4 internal auditors shall respect and contribute to the legitimate and ethical objectives of the organization. In the area of 2, objectivity, 2.1, internal auditors shall not participate in any activity or relationship that may impair or be presumed to impair their unbiased assessment. This participation includes those activities or relationships that may be in conflict with the interests of the organization 2.2, internal auditors shall not accept anything that may impair or be presumed to impair their professional judgment. And last, 2.3, internal auditors shall disclose all material facts known to them that, if not disclosed, may distort the reporting of activities under review. Confidentiality. 3.1, internal auditors shall be prudent in the use and protection of information acquired in the course of their duties. And 3.2, shall not use information for any personal gain or in any manner that would be contrary to the law or detrimental to the legitimate and ethical objectives of the organization. And last, 4, competence. 4.1, internal auditors shall engage only in those services for which they have the necessary knowledge, skills, and experiences. 4.2, internal auditors shall perform internal audit services in accordance with the international standards for the professional practice of internal auditing. And 4.3, shall continually improve their proficiency and the effectiveness and quality of their services. So now that I've touched upon the definition of internal auditing, the code of ethics, the core principles, and the standards in general, we've went over everything that makes up mandatory guidance. The recommended guidance consists of implementation guidance and supplemental guidance. The Institute of Internal Auditors website also includes several research papers and booklets that are specific for an auditor's growth. Visit the IIA at theiia.org for more information.